pollen usually mainly sticks to dirt. So if your house already has a little bit of dirt on it, then after the pollen comes through, your house is going to be very yellow because it's got a lot to stick to. If your house is freshly cleaned, either this time of year or in a few weeks in the middle of pollen season,
Yep.
Same thing is true. There's not a lot to stick on it. Some of the pollen's already hit the ground, and then a rainfall will knock down any extra dust that's trying to hang on to your siding. So,
And from your experience, when do you think we'll start to see our first yellow wave?
I think we're a couple weeks out right now, but I don't know.
So you're saying mid-March?
Yeah.
Mid-March,
Something
maybe
like
late
that.
March, somewhere in there?
It moves around every year. I've seen it start at the beginning of February and be done by the end of February.
Yep.
That happened, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. That was weird.
I remember that, yeah.
But I've also seen it not start until almost April. But usually once the heavy yellow pollen comes, we have about 3 solid weeks of pine pollen. There's other types of pollen, but pine pollen is the heavy yellow stuff that kind of colors up everything.
So that's a great tip that I didn't even think of, but welcome to Connections. My name is Glen Gould, and this is our video and podcast series where we introduce you, our friends, to other friends of ours, because we find that when we're able to do that, we're able to connect more people. And I have somebody today that I know you're going to enjoy meeting and probably want to get to know. Cameron Clark has been a friend of mine for several years now, and Cameron and I are together every week in a group, and so I thought this would be a perfect time to introduce you to Cameron, especially with spring coming along. Cameron, of course, I know you, but our friends don't, so tell our friends a little bit about you and your company.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Like you said, my name's Cameron Clark. I'm an owner of Clark Painting and Power Washing with my dad. And he's been running that business since 1987. So primarily as a painting company, but growing up there, I had a little bit more enjoyment with the pressure washing services. So that's what I run now. And we do all types of exterior cleaning, window washing, pressure washing, soft washing. And like you said, it's about to be our busiest time of the year as the pollen is getting ready to come down and coat everything in yellow. So we're getting ready to get busy.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that since it is something that's timely. Is there anything people can be doing now to prepare for that, aside from maybe booking an appointment with you in advance and betting on when the pollen's going to come? But is there anything they can be doing right now?
We do preventative cleaning before pollen. It's somewhat effective. I mean, if you clean right before the pollen comes down, it helps it not to stick to everything. Sometimes it still needs another rinse, but it depends on your lot. But like you already said, not waiting until everything's yellow to call is probably the best thing you could do. We build out our post-pollen cleaning list at this time of the year because what inevitably happens is that a lot of people call and say, hey, I have a graduation party this Saturday, but it's already Wednesday. Can you come back and clean it? And then, of course, we can't. And so we want to service everyone we can, but we build out our schedule in advance for that reason.
Sure. And so you said that the business has been around. Your dad started the business. Tell us a little bit about the history.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I know. I mean, he started the company before I was born, but he worked for a painting company in West Chicago. I think he started maybe toward the end of high school, but maybe in his college years. But after working there for a few years, he started doing his side projects and then launched his own company in the Chicago suburbs. And then in 2000 is when he moved the company to Peachtree City. His brother was a Delta pilot and so has lived in Peachtree City. And then as our family would come visit all the time, enjoy the golf cart paths, all the fun things that this area has to offer. Better weather in the winter months, of course.
Amazing.
He talked my parents into moving down. So that's what brought us down here, our company down here, and offering the same services to the Peachtree City area.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about if you own a company. Even though you can't move your client base from Chicago to Peachtree City, you already have the skill, you already have the knowledge, you know what it takes to build it out, you know what it's going to take to get it started again, and you can basically go anywhere once as opposed to with a job. I mean, if you have a skill, you can go anywhere, and that's kind of what your business is. It's a very specialized skill, especially people know about painting being specialized. Anybody can paint, but very few people can paint well.
Sure.
Right, but the thing that I find interesting is, I know when I was growing up, I mean, power washing and pressure washing wasn't even a thing. I mean, you really didn't see it. The first time I recall being exposed to pressure washing was I owned a company that cleaned Kmart stores, and they asked us to pressure wash the front of the store. Of course, we tried to do it ourselves, and I know there's a lot of ways that people can do it themselves, but I've seen firsthand the difference of what your work is and what somebody doing themselves is. I mean, there's some risk in doing it yourselves, isn't there?
Oh, for sure. I mean, and across all the different services that we offer, that's true. Specifically pressure washing, I mean, yeah, you're working with something with high PSI. You can cut off your toe. You can, scar up your hands if you're being careless, but you can also damage your property pretty easily. And then, I mean, unfortunately, all the time when a new client calls us, they say, it's usually for this, it's for gutter cleaning service, but people say, we used to do it ourselves, but I fell off a ladder, my husband fell off a ladder, and I mean, it's very dangerous getting on a ladder if you don't know how to do it properly, if you don't have someone there helping you, and so we take a lot of intentionality with our safety programs, especially with just any time we have to touch a ladder. But yeah, I mean, it seems like a simple thing, getting up and cleaning out your gutters or washing off your driveway. But you're right, it can go wrong if you don't know what you're doing.
That's what we did this past year. Of course, my son's bought a home, and it's the first time that we've had those kind of maintenance issues. And so we got on the ladder for a second and said, no, I don't think so. This is a job for the pros. So we had you come out and clean out our gutters, which obviously was amazing, and we were thrilled with that. Tell me what the difference is between pressure washing, power washing, and soft washing, because I've heard you use all three, and I'm sure there's a difference.
There is, and that's a great question, and it goes back to what you said about you may not have been familiar as much with these services a few decades ago opposed to now. Soft washing is a really new term and probably popped up in the past 10 years, maybe slightly more than that. But soft washing uses a pressure washer sometimes. Sometimes you use a different type of pump, but it's a very gentle application of a chemical, let it dwell and pull off whatever stains you're trying to attempt, usually bleach with organic material like algae and such, and then just a gentle rinse with water. The actual impact of that liquid hitting the surface is not much more than what your shower head is when it hits your body. It's pretty gentle. Pressure washing and power washing are pretty much interchangeable terms. They're kind of different parts of the country. They're more dominant, but it's the same thing. And that's kind of more what you think of. You're using a little bit higher pressure, usually to clean concrete or another type of masonry that can hold up to that high pressure. Yeah. And kind of almost pulverizing that surface to get the surface clean.
Yeah, of course, I mentioned a second ago about there's a risk. I know that I've got this little electric power washer, they bought at Home Depot or Lowe's or somewhere, I can't remember. And, you don't really think much about it. You get the water going in there, you hear the big high noise, you put it on the ground, it cleans a little spot, and you go, wow, that looks great. And, you're cleaning this much at a time. Yeah. And after about 45 minutes, you've cleaned an area 12 by 3 or something. And you go, man, this is going to take forever. By the time I get done, it's going to be dirty again. But I took ours and thought I'd just pressure wash the side of the house one time, and I blew a hole in the siding. I mean, that's just a little one. I mean, I can't imagine if you didn't know what you were doing, what you might do if you rented one or something like that. So we've talked a little bit about the technicalities and all that. Tell me what a typical job looks like when you get called by somebody. You go out and what's the difference between what they expect they need and what they probably do need?
I mean, it's a great question. It can vary so much on a regular lot. Most of our clients that we service are repeat clients. So, there's someone that we just saw 12 months ago or 6 months ago or 18 months ago. It's someone we're usually familiar with what they have and what they need. But yeah, a lot of people, this area is booming. We've had a lot of people move here from out of town. So we've had the chance to kind of educate, almost, I don't want to say that in the negative term, but
no, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you're a professional.
Right. And so a lot of people, the service like window cleaning, that's pretty much always cosmetic. I mean, there could be a reason that you need window cleaning, but usually it's a luxury service. So if you want it, it's because you want your windows to look clean, not because your windows are going to go bad if they get dirty. Okay. So we offer that to them if they're operating on a budget. You can say this is an optional thing. You don't really need it, but if you want it, you can have this. And then again, educating them about when the pollen season is and the right time to clean. And then again, also like you said, if you take a pressure washer the same way you're cleaning your concrete and put it up on your house, it's probably not going to go well. Either you're going to damage that surface or force water in a place you don't want water to be. We work with clients to make sure that we make sure that they know what we're talking about, and then that builds trust.
Sure, of course. Well, you mentioned the area is booming. Now, are you originally from here, or did you grow up in Chicago?
I was born just outside Chicago. Okay. I moved here when I was 7.
Okay, so. But obviously you've seen the changes over the past 23 years. I think you said you're 30 now, right?
Yep.
And you've got family here.
I do.
And you're married.
Yep.
And at least one child I know of.
2 now. Yep.
Ah, okay, great. And so the area itself. I mean, let's talk a little bit about just, if you don't mind, the area and personal stuff. What do you find appealing about living in the area? Do you live in Peachtree City?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I live right in the middle of Peachtree City, and it's actually funny enough. We happened to buy a house right around the corner from the house I grew up in. So
Okay.
it's like a 7-minute walk to my parents' house that I grew up in, and it's a lovely area. I already mentioned the golf cart paths. I mean, you can continue talking about that. All the things that go along with that, like the 4th of July parade, and there's so much fun there. We have a park just through the woods behind our house that my 2-year-old daughter just lives on. She can't get enough of that park. And then, she's 2. She's our oldest, so we're not in school yet, but we will be. And obviously, the schools in Peachtree City are great. And
they are
that's
great.
An important thing.
Yeah.
So I'm someone that just kind of really loves simple things, the golf cart ride or a walk through the woods, getting to see, birds, deer, etc., all the good things. The friendly people, that was actually something that when we first moved here, we thought was so weird. Moving from West Chicago where, people are cold, they just kind of look at you and, just whatever. But here, if you go for a walk or a bike ride, everyone's waving at you.
That's right.
And that was new to us. I remember my parents being like, did we know that person? Did we meet them before? Or, trying to wonder, why is everyone waving at us?
Yeah.
But that's just that kind of Southern hospitality that we got to experience when
Sure.
we first moved here, and now it's something that's natural to us and we really like and enjoy.
And do you like I ask this question a lot. I don't know why. I guess I like restaurants. But do you have a favorite restaurant in the area?
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of newer ones that
I'm always worried. I know how it is. Every time I ask that question, somebody says, "Well, gosh, I don't want to leave anybody out, right?"
I'll leave them out. I'll say, that's fine. Curious Pig is my favorite one.
Okay.
I love that place. It's great food, a great environment. Cocktails are good too.
Yeah.
It's a place that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, it's a great place. Absolutely. All right, so let's focus back on our friends out here and how they can get benefit. Let's just say that somebody wants to do their own thing. Okay, and what kind of advice can you give them? Here's a few things you want to either avoid or watch out for, or these are a couple of things you definitely want to do. You mentioned something about like bleach, that you're using bleach. I mean, maybe does that damage the plants, things like that? Just a couple of tips if somebody does want to do it themselves.
Yeah, no, that's a question we get all the time, especially when we give someone optional line items. They want us to do part of the project, but I can handle part of it myself too. That's fine. And there's some tips that I'll always give out. I like to look at people's units that they have, if they own their own pressure washer or if they're planning to rent one. I usually like to stay away from the electric pressure washers because they have such little natural power that they overcompensate with high pressure, which is really damaging. So I like to, the manufacturers like to boast high PSI. Oh, this pressure washer can do 5,000 PSI. You'll never need 5,000 PSI unless you're, trying to ruin your house.
And of course, that's the thing. When I bought it, the first thing I looked at was the PSI.
No, I mean, my units are 10 gallon per minute, but I don't think they get over 3,000 PSI. So that's the first thing. The second thing is educating on bleach. Bleach is like a scary word to a lot of people because they've had a pressure washer that's come out and ruined their garden before, or they just know that it can be damaging. They're sensitive to their own nose and the odor it gives off. But you gotta use bleach if you're cleaning outside and you want to be effective. If you want to clean it properly, it's kind of the difference of like if you're doing dishes and you don't use soap and you're just trying to scrape a plate. It's going to take a long time. You're probably not going to get it all the way clean. So a proper use of chemicals, knowing your ratios that are correct, knowing how to neutralize those chemicals is important. And then, just making sure that your PSI in your pressure washer isn't over 3,000. Residential concrete is supposed to be up to 4,000 PSI, but it's not always. I usually like to assume that it's under 3,000 PSI of impact. So, those are probably the two biggest things.
Okay.
So make sure you wear closed-toed shoes.
That's good.
That's
all right, and so now let's say that the closed-toed shoes. I scaled right over that one, but yeah, you're not kidding. That's definitely one you want to make sure of. I know that I ripped a hole in a shoe back, when in a car wash. So I mean, it's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go back to a couple of things that we haven't covered, and then we'll cover the pollen season. So if I forget, make sure I cover that.
Okay.
But we've kind of glossed over the painting part of your business. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's what my dad manages still. That's what he always has and still does. His focus there is really on garage floor coatings, garage floor epoxies. That's something we've been offering for about the past 10 to 15 years, and it's something that's really kind of exploded into our almost favorite niche, or it's becoming our favorite niche. But we do interior and exterior repaints. We don't do new construction paints, so that's why I said repaints.
Okay.
We don't do new construction paints. We're not really a good fit for builders most of the time. But we also are we have a very skilled crew when it comes to drywall repair as well.
Okay.
So residential and commercial, all around the Peachtree City area. Our painting crews don't really travel very far. So Fayette County, Coweta County, maybe a town that's just outside there.
Okay.
But yeah, that's pretty much
cool.
Pretty much summarizes the painting side of the company.
All right, and so it sounds like mostly residential.
Yeah, definitely mostly.
And then of course, if you're trying to turn that garage into that new outdoor space that everybody's doing, they're turning those into like not just man caves, but caves in general. Everybody go out to the garage and hang out as opposed to being out in the sun, which everybody has their own thing.
Right.
All right, so let's talk about pollen season, because that's really what people are going to be very interested in. Can you kind of predict when it starts and when it'll be beneficial to have it cleaned? And I would imagine that the truth is, obviously everybody wants to time it to the end, but you could probably get halfway through and still get great value out of going ahead and having it cleaned.
Oh, yeah,
am I wrong?
Definitely. I kind of started to touch on it earlier, but pollen usually mainly sticks to dirt. So if your house already has a little bit of dirt on it, then after the pollen comes through, your house is going to be very yellow because it's got a lot to stick to. If your house is freshly cleaned, either this time of year or in a few weeks in the middle of pollen season,
yep.
Same thing is true. There's not a lot to stick on it. Some of the pollen's already hit the ground, and then a rainfall will knock down any extra dust that's trying to hang on to your siding. So yeah, you can definitely kind of get ahead of it and sort of jump in line and get cleaned in the middle of pollen season.
Okay. And from your experience, when do you think we'll start to see our first yellow wave?
I think we're a couple weeks out right now. But I don't know.
So you're saying mid-March?
Yeah.
Mid-March, maybe
like
late March, somewhere in there?
It moves around every year. I've seen it start at the beginning of February and be done by the end of February.
Yep.
That happened, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. That was weird.
I remember that, yeah.
But I've also seen it not start until almost April. But usually once the heavy yellow pollen comes, we have about 3 solid weeks of pine pollen. There's other types of pollen, but pine pollen is the heavy yellow stuff that kind of colors up everything.
So that's a great tip that I didn't even think of, but from the time you see the first kind of good wave of pollen, you can kind of figure 3 weeks from now,
we'll be good.
It'll be pretty much over.
Yep.
So that'd be a great time to call you, although by then you're probably already booked up a couple of weeks,
Well,
right?
You're doing better than the people that wait until their party's this Saturday.
And so let's talk about that, because I know a lot of people will have graduation parties already planned. They'll have wedding announcement parties, or they'll have showers, or they'll have birthday parties or whatever. You've already got them planned for, say, mid-April, mid-May. Now's the time to be contacting Cameron to go ahead and book it. Then you're locked in. You don't have to worry about that because there's so many other things to worry about. Somebody wants to get in touch with you. How do they do that?
My phone number is 678-764-1019. You can go to our website, clarkpowerwash.com. We're also on all the social media platforms too, Clark Painting and Power Washing. So we try to be easy to find.
Sure, that sounds like it. So timing is everything. And I'll tell you that one of the reasons I wanted to get Cameron in now was because I know that last year, even just last year, I had a lot of clients who wanted us to come out and pick up their cushions after they'd already from their outdoor furniture, already let the pollen get all over them, right? Now's the time to be pulling those things out and bringing them inside, if nothing else, before the pollen starts to hit, or we can go ahead and clean them and store them for you. Or when Cameron's out there, he can blast them off too. But now's the time to go ahead and contact to get that done. And then, of course, if you've got some renovation work you're going to do this spring, maybe you're going to rearrange a room and you're going to turn maybe one of your children's moving off to college or moving away, and you want to turn that room into a sewing room or a craft room or a man cave or whatever, a great time to have Clark Painting and Power Washing come out and do some painting as well. Once again, tell them one more time how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, our website is clarkpowerwash.com, and My personal cell phone, 678-764-1019. I pick up the phone pretty much anytime it rings, unless I'm already on the phone. So, yeah.
Great. Well, I can tell you from my perspective, we've used Cameron's company to do work for us several times, doing window washing, doing cleaning gutters, doing some power washing. I mean, heck, even one time we had a problem in our warehouse, and he was able to come over with his tall ladder and fix a problem with a garage door.
Yeah.
So, you know, I trust this man, and I know you can too. So, hey, thanks so much for coming in today. I hope that you have a great week, and hopefully some of our friends will reach out to you soon and get booked up for an event.
Great. Thanks, Glenn. It was fun.
I'm Glen Gould, and this has been Connections. Thanks so much for joining us. See you next time on Connections. Bye now.